mystery begins. The galaxy was wide and full of power. Countless empires stretched across the stars. They had war fleets larger than cities, stations bigger than moons, and technology older than human history. Yet something strange was happening, something that made even the proudest rulers whisper in fear. Alien war fleets kept coming back to human repair yards. It started small. One damaged cruiser from the Drava Empire limped into a human dock near the outer colonies. The crew expected slow repairs, they expected rude treatment like they received from their own kind. But instead, the humans welcomed them with tired smiles and warm hands. In a matter of days, the ship was flying better than before. The alien captain told his superiors that no one else could have done it. Then it happened again. A destroyer from the Thrawn fleet skipped 3 of its own repair bases and traveled weeks out of its way just to reach a human station. By the time the ship left, the crew swore they would only trust humans with their engines. Soon the pattern could not be ignored. Massive alien battleships, heavy carriers, and even elite warships, all of them were leaving their own proud yards and traveling across dangerous routes only to reach human docks. The galaxy was confused. Why would advanced fleets, with resources far greater than Earth, keep depending on such a young species? Inside the Galactic Council chamber, voices rose like thunder. An insectoid lord hissed, "Humans are hiding something. Their yards must be using forbidden technology." A reptilian war chief growled, "This is a trick. They want our fleets to rely on them. Then they will control us." But the human ambassador only listened calmly, his voice soft. "Our people simply repair what is broken," he said. Nothing more. Outside the council, rumors spread. Alien traders spoke of human repair yards filled with strange energy. Some said humans had stolen ancient secrets. Others believed they used hidden weapons to force loyalty. But none of it matched the simple truth seen by those who visited on a quiet dock near Mars. Engineers worked day and night, their hands covered in oil, their faces lit by sparks. They argued, laughed, and pushed each other forward. When something broke, they did not complain. They solved it together. Alien crews who watched were shocked. They had never seen such a thing in their empires. Only strict order and punishment ruled the workers. But here, even the youngest human mechanic could shout an idea, and the team would listen somehow. This spirit made the repairs faster and stronger. The hook came one evening when a colossal warship from the Vec Empire arrived. Its hull torn open, engines smoking. The galaxy watched closely. The ship had bypassed 10 alien stations to reach Earth's docks. The Vec admiral stood before the human chief engineer and asked in disbelief, "Why do we trust you humans more than our own kind?" The engineer only smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because we don't give up," he said. Within days, the impossible ship flew again, its engines roaring like thunder. The alien admiral looked at the repaired warship and then at the humans, his eyes heavy with something new. Not pride, not anger, but respect. News spread like fire across the galaxy. Fleets whispered to one another, "If you want your ship to live, take it to the humans." And so the pattern grew stronger. Ship after ship, empire after empire. In dark corners of the council, leaders grew more afraid. If fleets trusted humans more than their rulers, then what would stop them from turning away completely? One elder spoke softly. "This is no longer about machines, this is about loyalty, and loyalty is more dangerous than any weapon." But the humans never asked for loyalty. They simply kept working, fixing ships, offering water to thirsty crews, sharing laughter in the middle of smoke and fire. What others saw as weakness, humans turned into strength, and so the galaxy stood at the edge of a question it could not answer. Why did alien fleets keep coming back? What secret rested in human hands? And as another massive alien carrier approached Earth, engines burning, hull shattered, the council demanded an explanation. The stars seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the answer. The council's suspicion, the Galactic Council chamber, was built to hold voices from 100 worlds. Its walls were carved with symbols of unity, but now those walls trembled with anger and fear. Alien leaders shouted over one another, their pride wounded by the sight of their fleets bowing to human hands. The insectoid lord clicked his mandibles. "This cannot be chance. Humans are hiding something. Their repair yards are too efficient, too perfect." His words dripped with venom. A reptilian war chief slammed his clawed fist against the table, sparks flying from the impact. They are weaving webs of loyalty. They want our fleets to depend on them. Soon they will command the galaxy without firing a shot. From the shadows, a feathered elder whispered, "Perhaps they have found forbidden relics, tools left by the first builders of the stars." The human ambassador sat calmly, his dark suit plain compared to the shining robes of the council, his voice soft yet steady. "Humans repair what is broken. We do not seek control. We only seek to keep ships flying and lives safe." But his words did not cool the fire in the chamber. If anything, they burned brighter. Outside the chamber, alien spies rushed to gather proof. Some slipped into human repair yards disguised as traders. Others bribed crews for secrets. But all they found were ordinary tools, welding torches, metal plates, and the strange human habit of working with laughter. One spy reported back, confused. "They argue, they joke. They even sing while repairing. Yet somehow their ships return stronger than before." His masters called him a fool, but he swore it was the truth. The council, unsatisfied, decided to set a trap. They would test humanity. In front of the galaxy, a crippled warship from the council's fleet would be split in two, half given to human engineers, half to alien engineers. Both groups would work under watchful eyes. If the humans failed, their mystery would end. If they succeeded, then the council would demand to know their secret. The day of the test arrived. Thousands gathered in the great dock of the central system. Floating platforms were filled with ambassadors, commanders, and curious citizens. The crippled warship lay like a wounded beast, its hull torn, engines shattered, weapons offline. The alien engineers went first. They moved in lines following strict orders, their tools gleaming with advanced design. They worked with precision, but their faces were cold. When one mistake was made, the worker was punished. No one dared to speak freely. No one dared to suggest another way. Progress was slow. On the other side, humans arrived with bags of tools and stained uniforms. They argued immediately, pointing at broken systems and suggesting wild ideas. One young mechanic shouted louder than the chief, and instead of punishment, the others laughed and tried his idea. Sparks flew, smoke rose, but the engine coughed. Back to life. The crowd leaned closer, their whispers growing. How can this chaos succeed? How can they move faster than order itself? Yet it was happening. Days passed. The alien team polished their section with careful hands, but the systems remained dead. Meanwhile, the humans crawled through broken vents, shared food with alien observers, and even let visiting engineers hold their tools. Slowly, piece by piece, their half of the warship began to breathe again. On the final day, the council gave the command. Both halves of the ship were tested. The alien side lit up with dim lights, but the systems failed within minutes. Smoke filled the dock, and their engineers lowered their heads in shame. Then came the human side. With a shout and a laugh, they activated the engines. The warship roared like a living giant, lights blazing across its hull, weapons cycling to life, shields humming with power. The dock shook with cheers. Alien crews from across the galaxy clapped their hands, stamped their feet, and shouted for the humans. The council sat in silence, their pride shattered. The reptilian war chief's scales darkened, his voice heavy with rage. "This is no accident. Humans are hiding more than skill. They are hiding power." But an old admiral from the Vec Empire whispered instead, "Perhaps they are not hiding power. Perhaps they are power." As the warship flew once more under human repair, the galaxy leaned closer to a mystery that only grew deeper. Why did humans succeed where others failed? What secret turned their chaos into strength? And in the quiet corner of the dock, the human chief engineer only smiled, wiping the sweat from his hands. "We just don't quit," he whispered to no one. But somehow, everyone heard it. Secrets in the shadows. The test had shaken the galaxy. No one could deny what their eyes had seen. Humans had turned a broken warship into a roaring beast while others failed. Whispers now filled every starport, every fleet mess hall, and every council corridor. "They must be hiding something," one captain muttered. "No species can work like that without a secret." "They laugh while repairing engines," another whispered. "Is it madness or genius?" Spies multiplied. In the shadows, some were hired by empires, Others by guilds of engineers desperate to steal the method. They crept into human repair yards, disguising themselves as traders, dockhands, even refugees. But what they saw only confused them more. They saw humans working without fear, a young girl barely 20 giving orders to veterans twice her age, and instead of anger, they listened. They saw teams of humans sharing food with alien crews, asking them questions about their ship, treating them like partners instead of clients. They saw mistakes happen, but instead of punishment, the humans laughed and tried again. One spy, a silent agent of the Terran Empire, wrote in his secret report, "Their strength is not tools, their strength is spirit. They repair not just machines, they repair trust." His masters called him a fool and burned the report. But he could not forget what he had seen. Then came darker rumors. Alien crews swore that after visiting human yards, their ships did not only work again, they felt different, stronger, alive in ways they had never felt before. One pilot whispered, "When I sit in the cockpit repaired by humans, it feels like the ship trusts me." Others agreed in secret, afraid of being mocked. The council grew more desperate. They demanded answers, they demanded to see the tools, the blueprints, the hidden codes. Humans only shrugged, showing them nothing more than wrenches, welding masks, and tired faces. Still the suspicion grew. Some empires even accused humans of planting hidden devices in the ships. "They will control our fleets from inside," shouted one general. But when the ships were scanned, nothing was found, only perfect repairs. Behind closed doors, human engineers began to notice the spies. They saw figures watching from the shadows. They found questions being asked by people who claimed to be traders but who cared too much about engines. Instead of fear, the humans smiled. One chief told his crew, "Let them watch. They will never understand what they see." The hook came when an ancient battleship from the oldest empire limped into orbit. Its hull was cracked, its engines silent for decades. Entire fleets had tried to repair it. All had failed. The galaxy waited to see what humans would do. When the humans entered the ship, they did not treat it like a dead machine. They treated it like a wounded friend. They walked slowly, whispering, touching walls as if the ship could hear them. Alien spies hidden nearby shook their heads, unable to understand. Within weeks, the ship rose again, its engines booming across the stars, older than any living commander, yet alive once more under human care. The crowds that watched could not believe it. "This is not repair," they said. "This is resurrection." The council panicked. If humans could bring even the oldest relics back to life, then no empire was safe. The reptilian war chief snarled, "If this continues, the galaxy will kneel to them." But others remained silent, staring at the reborn battleship with awe instead of fear. In the quiet of the night, one alien spy wrote a final message before vanishing. "We search for machines, but the secret is not machines. It is the human heart." His words were never delivered. His masters never knew where he disappeared. Meanwhile, human yards kept shining like beacons one after another. Fleets arrived, broken ships carried across the stars, not because humans had better tools, but because they carried something no one else could offer. And still the greatest question remained unanswered. What was it that truly pulled fleets back to Earth? Why did captains risk everything just to reach human hands? The galaxy leaned closer to the shadows, waiting, watching, certain that the real secret had not yet been revealed. The test escalation and rising loyalty, the rebirth of the ancient battleship had shaken the galaxy more than any battle. Fleets whispered of it as if it were a legend. Alien captains swore the ship had roared like a beast that refused to die, and once again it was the hands of humans that gave it life. The Galactic Council could no longer hide their fear. In secret chambers they plotted. "If we cannot expose them, we must break them," hissed the insectoid lord. The reptilian war chief leaned forward, his eyes burning. "Then let us set a greater test, one that cannot be passed by tricks or laughter." They decided to bring not one ship but an entire squadron, a group of warships all crippled in battle, their engines shattered, weapons destroyed, shields burned. Half of them would go to human repair yards. Half would go to the best alien engineers chosen from across the galaxy. The results would be broadcast live to every empire. No one would escape the truth. The announcement shook the stars. Citizens filled viewing platforms. Fleets tuned in from distant systems. Alien admirals leaned close to their screens. The test would prove once and for all whether humans were miracle workers or dangerous liars. When the crippled squadron arrived, the difference was clear from the start. The alien engineers marched in tight lines, their stations silent, their tools gleaming like polished silver. They bowed to their commanders and began their work in silence. On the other side, humans arrived with grease on their clothes, half-empty toolkits and bright smiles. One engineer slapped the back of another and shouted, "Let's see if we can make this beast roar again." Laughter spread through their team before the first bolt was even turned. The council thought it was chaos, the galaxy thought it was madness. But slowly the madness turned into progress. Alien engineers followed rules. Every part was measured 3 times, every move double-checked, but their repairs crawled forward like frozen rivers. When mistakes appeared, they hid them, too afraid to admit failure. Humans were different. When a part broke, they cursed, laughed, and tried something else. When an idea failed, another mechanic shouted a new plan. Even the youngest worker was allowed to speak, and often those wild voices brought the solution no one else saw. As weeks passed, the difference became impossible to ignore. The alien half of the squadron still lay silent, their ships clean but dead. The human half rattled, with noise, sparks flying, engines coughing back to life. One by one, their ships began to glow. The first human ship roared awake after only 9 days. Its crew cheered and hugged the humans as if they were family. The second ship followed a week later, and by the third, the galaxy's people were already whispering the same words. Trust. The humans. But the true moment of loyalty came when the fourth ship lit its engines. The alien crew that had doubted the humans fell to their knees, tears streaming down their faces. They had thought their ship lost forever, but the humans had given it back. Those alien sailors refused to return to their own empire. They asked to stay near Earth, swearing loyalty not to rulers, not to council, but to the human engineers who had saved them. This act shook the council like thunder. Fleets giving loyalty to humans instead of their empires was the one thing they feared most. The reptilian war chief bared his teeth. This is the end of balance. Today they repair ships. Tomorrow they command fleets, but among the crowds the cheers for humans only grew louder. Even young alien children waved flags painted with the symbol of Earth. And in the quiet corner of the dock, the human chief engineer watched the ships rise one by one, his hands scarred, his clothes dirty, yet his heart calm. "We never wanted thrones," he whispered. "We only wanted to help." The galaxy could not understand it. In a universe where power was taken by force, humans gained it by kindness, and that was far more dangerous than any weapon. And as the final ship of the squadron lifted into the stars, alive again under human care, the galaxy realized a new truth. Fleets no longer returned to humans only for repairs. They returned because they trusted, because they believed, because for the first time in history, they felt safe. The revelation. The test of the squadron had ended, but the galaxy did not grow calm. It grew restless. Everywhere people whispered, fleets argued, and rulers feared. Alien citizens asked questions their leaders could not answer. Why did human yards succeed where others failed? Why did captains trust humans more than their own kind? The council held emergency meetings, chambers filled with voices like storms. The insectoid lord hissed, "This is corruption. They have poisoned our fleets." With lies, the reptilian war chief roared. "They are building an empire of loyalty, and soon no blade will cut them down." But others in the chamber remained silent, their eyes heavy with doubt, because even their own fleets were sending messages. "Let the humans repair us, or we will not fight." In the shadows of those meetings, an old alien admiral, his body scarred from decades of war, rose slowly to speak. His voice cracked but clear. "You look for secrets in their machines, but the secret is not in steel. It is in spirit." The chamber fell silent, his words burned like fire. When humans touch a ship, they do not see only metal. They see the people who fly it. They do not repair engines. They repair hope. Outside the council, fleets were proving his words true. Alien crews returned from human docks telling stories of kindness. One said, A mechanic shared his last meal with me while fixing my engine, another whispered. They asked my name. No one has ever asked before. These stories spread faster than any law, turning suspicion into faith, but not all believed. Powerful empires grew desperate. They sent more spies, this time not to watch but to sabotage, in one yard near the Edge of Sol system. Hidden agents damaged a repaired cruiser, hoping it would fail in battle and shame the humans. The cruiser returned to its fleet, engines humming strong, weapons firing perfectly. The sabotage failed, and when investigators searched, they found the hidden devices placed by the spies. The truth exploded across the galaxy. It was not humans who planted traps, it was their rivals. The revelation shook every empire, their accusations collapsed, their lies exposed. Now fleets asked, not, why do humans repair, but why do others fear them? Yet the greatest revelation did not come from council chambers or from sabotage. It came quietly, from an alien commander on his deathbed, a Vec admiral who had fought for 70 years, his body broken but his eyes still sharp. He summoned the human chief engineer who had repaired his ship many times. Listen, the admiral whispered, his voice weak. Our empires build with fear, with punishment, with pride. But you, humans, you build with something else. The engineer leaned closer. The admiral smiled faintly. You build with trust, and trust is stronger than steel. Those words spread like a new law, repeated by every crew who had ever walked through a human yard, repeated by captains, by mechanics, by soldiers who had seen their ships rise again. The council tried to silence it, but they could not. The revelation was too powerful. Fleets no longer cared about orders, they cared about survival. And survival meant trusting the ones who never gave up, the ones who worked with laughter even when fires burned, the ones who treated strangers as family. The reptilian war chief struck the council table with rage. This is dangerous. Loyalty is leaving our hands. But another voice, softer, answered, him. Perhaps it is not leaving, perhaps it has found its true place. The galaxy began to change, slowly but surely. Captains who once bowed only to their rulers now bowed to human engineers. Fleets that once feared punishment now carried banners painted with the simple symbol of Earth. A small blue world that had no empire, no throne, no crown, and yet held the loyalty of the stars. In the repair yards, humans did not notice the weight of history on their shoulders. They only worked, fixing one more engine, patching one more hull, sharing one more laugh. But across the galaxy, alien rulers trembled because they realized the shocking reason fleets returned to humans was not hidden technology, not secret weapons, not tricks of the past. It was something far more dangerous. It was the human spirit. And as another damaged fleet turned away from its empire's station and set course for Earth, the stars themselves seemed to whisper the truth. The confrontation, the revelation spread like wildfire. Fleets no longer asked for permission from rulers. They simply turned their ships toward human repair yards. No empire could stop them, and no council order could silence them. But power fears what it cannot control. The reptilian war chief, burning with rage, called together allies. If we do nothing, the galaxy will belong to humans without a single battle. We must strike now. His claws tore across the map of the stars. We will blockade their docks, cut their supply lines, and force them back into silence. Others agreed, not because they hated humans, but because they feared losing control. Fear twisted into violence. Soon fleets from 3 powerful empires appeared at the edge of Sol system, their warships forming a wall of fire around human space. Their commanders sent a message to Earth. Close your repair yards or we will burn them. The galaxy gasped. Every screen across the stars lit with the ultimatum. Would humanity bow, or would they resist? Inside the repair yards, humans kept working. Sparks flew, engines roared, and laughter filled the air. One young mechanic wiped sweat from her brow and asked, "What now, Chief?" The chief engineer looked at her with calm eyes. "We do what we always do. We fix what is broken." But the fleets outside were not broken machines. They were living threats, and their weapons were aimed at Earth. Then, something no one expected happened. As the hostile fleets tightened their blockade, ships from other empires began to break formation. One cruiser, then 2. Then an entire squadron turned their bows away from the blockade and flew toward human docks, their captains sending one simple message: We trust the humans. Chaos erupted. Fleets meant to enforce the blockade now splintered, half obeying orders, half defecting to Earth. The reptilian war chief roared in fury. Traitors! But his own officers looked uneasy. Their ships whispered with unrest because many of their crews had already been saved by human hands. Loyalty had shifted silently, and now it burned bright. The confrontation grew tense. Weapons charged, shields raised. One spark could have started the largest war the galaxy had ever seen. Citizens across the stars held their breath, watching in silence. In the council chamber, the insectoid lord hissed, "Fire! Show them we are still masters." But another voice, trembling yet firm, answered, "Fire upon them and you will lose everything. Because the fleets no longer fear you, they no longer believe you, they believe in the humans." In the middle of the standoff, a massive alien carrier limped into the system, its hull broken, smoke trailing across space. The crews inside were desperate. Their only hope was the human repair yards, but to reach them they would have to cross the blockade. All eyes turned to the humans. Would they risk everything to save one ship? The chief engineer stood at the dock controls, his voice calm. "Open the gates, let them in." The hostile fleets shouted warnings. "If you cross the line, you die." But the carrier kept moving, slow, broken, but determined. Suddenly, human ships, small, fragile, nothing compared to the war fleets, moved out to escort the dying carrier. They flew in front like shields of flesh and steel, their captains sending only one message: no ship will die while humans stand. The galaxy erupted in shock. Alien crews who had once mocked humans now wept at the sight. Tiny human vessels standing against giants. The blockade fleets hesitated, their weapons ready but their hearts shaking, because many of those giant warships carried sailors who had once been saved by humans. Sailors who now whispered to their commanders, "We will not fire. Not on them." In that moment, the blockade cracked. Ships lowered their weapons. Some turned completely and joined the escort. The reptilian war chief screamed orders, but no one listened. Power had slipped through his claws. Loyalty had shifted beyond his reach. The dying carrier crossed safely into human docks, welcomed by cheers and lights, and when its engines were repaired days later, the crews of dozens of fleets swore allegiance not to their rulers, but to the spirit of humanity. The confrontation was over without a single shot. Yet it changed the galaxy forever, because everyone had seen it. The truth that could no longer be denied: humans did not rule with weapons. They ruled with trust, and trust had defeated fear. In the quiet after the storm, the human chief engineer whispered to himself, "Machines break, but hope does not." His words carried farther than he ever knew, carried into the hearts of every watching sailor, every captain, every child across the stars. And as fleets across the galaxy turned their flags toward Earth, the Council realized the war they feared had already been lost, not to fire, but to faith. Machines can be built by anyone, but hope can only be built by humans. The answer: the confrontation at Sol System echoed through the stars. Fleets that once followed orders without question now looked toward Earth. Rulers who once held absolute control now sat in silence, their power crumbling. The galaxy demanded one final answer: why did every alien war fleet keep returning to human repair yards? The Council summoned a great assembly, bigger than any gathering before. Thousands of voices, millions watching across the stars, every screen, every channel, every system tuned in. The question had become too heavy to ignore. In the center of the chamber stood the human ambassador, his suit plain, his face calm. Behind him were not soldiers or warlords, but mechanics, engineers, and young apprentices still carrying grease on their hands. The insectoid lord hissed, "Tell us your secret. Tell us why fleets betray their own empires to kneel at your docks." The reptilian war chief growled, "Admit it, humans. You hold hidden weapons, ancient machines, forbidden codes. Reveal them now or face war." The chamber trembled, the galaxy held its breath, and then the human ambassador raised his voice, not loud but steady. "We have no secret weapons," he said. "We have no ancient codes." He stepped aside, letting the chief engineer speak, his voice rough but honest. "Ships break, machines fail. But when a crew brings their ship to us, We do not see only metal. We see lives. We see families waiting for them to come home, and so we fix them, not just with tools but with trust. Murmurs filled the chamber. Disbelief. Shock. Yet something deeper, too. Something heavy. The old Vik admiral who once spoke on his deathbed appeared in a recording, his final words playing for all to hear. Their strength is not in steel. It is in spirit. They repair not just machines, they repair hope. Those words fell like thunder echoing across the galaxy. Alien crews who had once been silent now stood. One captain raised his voice. They saved my ship when my empire abandoned me. Another shouted. They treated me as family when my own rulers treated me as dirt. More and more voices rose until the chamber shook, not with anger but with truth. The council tried to argue, but their words were drowned, for the galaxy had already decided. The shocking reason fleets kept returning was no longer a mystery. It was trust. It was kindness. It was the human refusal to give up on anyone. In the days that followed, fleets openly declared loyalty, not to empires, but to the idea that humans carried stations once filled with fear, now carried banners of hope. Children across alien worlds painted pictures of small human mechanics holding tools like heroes. Songs were sung about laughter in the fire, about hands that fixed more than engines, but not all rulers gave up. Some still plotted in silence, yet even they knew the truth. Weapons could command bodies, but only trust could command hearts, and the hearts of the galaxy now leaned toward Earth. In the repair yards, life did not change much. Humans still worked late into the night, still shouted at broken wires, still shared food with strangers, still laughed even when sparks burned their clothes. But now, when alien fleets arrived, they did not come only for repairs. They came to find something greater, to touch the spirit that could not be built, stolen or forced. One evening as a massive fleet gathered around Earth, the chief engineer stood on the dock, watching ships from dozens of empires waiting patiently. He whispered to the young mechanic beside him, "Do you see it? They all return because they know we will never let them fall." The young mechanic smiled. "Then we will never stop." And so the answer spread, carried by every ship that rose again, every crew that found hope again, every child who dreamed again. The reason fleets kept coming back was not a secret hidden in machines, but a truth written in the human heart. Machines break, walls crumble, empires fall. But hope, once repaired, flies forever. And from that day on, across the endless stars, every broken fleet that searched for life, for safety, for trust, knew the path they must take. They turned their bows toward Earth, toward human hands, toward the only docks where steel and spirit were fixed together, and the galaxy understood at last. The shocking reason alien war fleets returned was not because humans were the best engineers, but because humans were the only ones who remembered what truly kept a ship alive.